Words-Sarge by Robert P. Fitton. Manelli would never give up. He gripped the shopping cart's red plastic handle and steadied himself as he shuffled along the baking aisle's shiny green tiles. Hints of hazelnut and French vanilla coffee beans provided a welcome security. The overhead fluorescent tubes' glare sometimes blotted out the packages and cans. He fished for his reading glasses and then balanced them on his nose. Joanna had written his list in shaky ink on the blue post-it notes. He cringed when the two teenagers appeared again down the end near the meat counter. How could he be scared of punks with gold earrings and metal pierced through their noses? At 83, he was afraid of a lot of things. "Oh, God, have mercy, according to your great mercy," he whispered. He nudged his shopping cart, only half filled with Joanna's request, and took baby steps. The cockiness made him want to run them down. 50 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, smacking them around was not a problem, but now any demands on his heart were risky. "Hey, old man," said the runt with the short, dyed blonde hair and glazed blue eyes. The sweat beaded on Manelli's brow. He pursued his lips as he cleared his throat. His voice was weaker and raspier in old age. "Hey, why don't you guys beat it?" "Dude wants us to beat it, Jackie." "Yeah, the old fart has balls." "You clowns, you don't know nothing. You don't appreciate nothing." "Listen to said the runt. "Can't even speak English." Manelli raised his heavy lids. He thrust his bushy white brows up, growled, and scurried forward. But the stupid cart went faster than his weakened legs. As he grasped for the handle, he lost his footing and hit the cold floor hard. His chest tightened as the light tubes and ceiling panels swirled. He saw the punks laughing through the cart's metal-gridded sides. "The geezer's down for the count, Z-Man," giggled the runt. "1, 2, 3. "Get up, you sack of crap," yelled the other one. Bright sneakers swung in a blur through the air, but he couldn't move. His ribs erupted in pain. He had pain before, but not like this. "Hey, you suck. Oh, man, you suck," said the runt. He closed his eyes as his chest throbbed and he called out Joanna's name. Jackie could not stop laughing as he followed the Z-Man into the meat aisle. He whipped by rows of plastic-wrapped chicken and beef in styrofoam containers. He had a thrill in his stomach when he thought about outrunning the cops. "Hey, we taught him a lesson." "Yeah, well, screw him." Near the plastic milk cartons and egg trays, two guys in white shirts and thin black ties ran with a single blue uniformed security officer. "Cops." In the back of the meat room, the Z-Man cut through the green aluminum cases into the cooler area. "Hey, where's the exit?" The cold air reeked of rancid meat. "What about the freezer?" "Forget the freezer." Jackie pointed to the bright red exit signs above the back door. "We're out of here." He raced over the cement like a rock, skipping across the water, and he extended his hands toward the emergency exit bar. An alarm siren whined when he bashed the bar. He shielded his eyes to the intense outside light. His skin tingled, as if someone had spilled a fizzy Coke all over him. Why was he wearing a coat with a backpack, layers of clothing, and a bike helmet? The air was even colder than the meat room. Several distant explosions and rapid repeating gunfire meant the security guard would kill him. Z-Man wore a green army coat with lots of buttons, olive pants, and laced with scuffed brown boots. A metal green combat helmet was strapped around his chin. Jackie dove to the dirt as thundering blasts disturbed the still air, and the ensuing bullets punctured the tree bark. Jackie held his helmet as the bullets now tore up the snow and the gravel. He had a queasiness in his gut that threatened to make him upchuck his Happy Meal. "What the hell is this? How did we get here?" Pebbles rained on his metal helmet and coat. Z-Man gripped his own helmet as the sun crept through the branches and spread with deepening morning shadows down the hill. He scanned the thin clouds brushed across the light blue sky. Jackie whispered through his teeth and fanatically inhaled the frigid air. "This is unreal." Another bullet smacked something to his left. "Z-Man, we gotta get out of here. I don't see the door." Steam from the blood-smoked fabric below Z-Man's pack evaporated like the fog from a quiescent country pond. Jackie repeatedly shook the Z-Man's shoulder. Then he turned him over. His eyes were huge chestnut marbles, and the deep dark maroon blood oozed over his purple lips. No! No! More bullets cut up the soil. The guns were only a few 100 feet away. He cupped his palms over his ears and the machine guns fired. At-a-tat, at-a-tat, at-a-tat. Somebody shouted from the tree grove below and truck engines started. Get your ass down here, Trax! Kraut machine gun nest in the woods! Jackie stared into the Z-Man's translucent eyes. He unbuttoned the coat and listened for a heartbeat through the sweater and shirt. He turned as something whooshed through the air. A prodigious burst covered him with gravel and pine needles and sent him tumbling back. He was deposited on level ground and squeezed his fingers around the edge of his helmet. More bullets zippered across the forest floor. A forceful, growling bare voice cracked in the crisp air. Trax! He held his stinging wrist and blood dried across his palm. One of the military vehicles approached. The same forceful voice ordered them to fire their 3-inch guns, and the ensuing cannon booms shook the forest. More at-a-tat, at-a-tat, at-a-tat drowned out the soldiers' voices. This is hell! Shut up, Trax. A red-haired guy, wood-butt rifle strapped over his shoulder, sent foggy breath into the air. Sarge says we're moving out. Jackie's voice quivered as he moved up the slope. The Z-Man! He's dead! This is war, Kilroy. Either you get up or we'll leave you for the Krauts. All I did was kick the old man. Big deal. What? My wrist. He turned over Jackie's hand. Just wash it out. It's a cut. The old man. Get your head on straight. Come on. A massive green tank with a white star painted on the back produced a tapering orange flash from its long gun. The 3-inch guns were positioned on tapering tripods across the hill. One by one they popped and explosions erupted along the opposite ridge. The flashes and noise hypnotized Jackie. His mouth was too dry to speak. He smacked his lips. Trax, it's me, Owen. He pulled a container out from his coat. Black letters U.S. stamped on the khaki cloth. Take a swig, it's fresh from the stream. Jackie held the cloth and gulped the freezing water till Owen pulled the container away. Zim wouldn't want you to stay back here and die. Come on, let's get back. Zim? Zim. Owen forced him to crouch and pushed him forward under Kraut fire. In the grove, dozens of heavy, white-numbered armored tanks left a corrugated trail of crushed leaves and grit. Soldiers stuck their flattened tan leather helmets out of the turrets. A huge guy, dark bristles prominent on his unshaven face, spotted him. He barked out an order to the soldier in the next tank, and then he jaunted toward Jackie. His intense, murky green eyes focused on Jackie. His helmet, a bullet hole in the metal, was stuffed over his dark hair and strapped under his chin whiskers. I sent you dummies back here for recon an hour ago. Where's Zimmerman? He's dead. What the hell am I doing here? I was in the supermarket. Sarge, he's shell-shocked. He'll get over it. Get him another rifle and start up with us. He faced Jackie. Private, carry on. I'm not supposed to be here. He gazed back toward the hill where Z-Man had fallen. You think I like it here? Get your ass in line or I'll blow your damn head off. Someone threw Jackie a rifle heavy enough to knock him off balance. He strapped it over his shoulder and tracked behind Sarge to the tanks. Sometimes bullets whizzed over his head. Only the tank guns stifled the smaller arms fire. A soldier, in a lighter coat, held out his rifle as he leaped over the rocks. Hey, another Kraut machine gun nest on that far hill there, Sarge. Sarge nodded and then cupped his hand to his mouth. Potts, the bazooka. A couple of soldiers stuffed something into a long tube, and the mortar exploded. Sarge wrapped his tree trunk hands around the rifle and shouted out more orders. The 3-inch, come on! Then he rushed the tank and pointed left. Hold it! Get them bastards on the rocks! The tank gun panned left and cranked upward. Jackie hid behind an adjacent tank. He couldn't understand why Sarge and the other soldiers didn't run as the Germans hurled barrage after barrage across the woods. Somebody mumbled that the tank gun had been improved to 90 millimeters. Jackie covered his ears when it fired, and the tank recoiled like a bucking horse. More U.S. tanks responded down the range. The explosions on the hill were closer, but the machine gun fire faded. "We got him, Sarge!" Sarge nodded and they started forward again. Everything moved like a massive beast. Jackie coughed from the heavy smoke as he positioned himself between Sarge and the tank. "Where are we, Sarge?" Sarge marched with his rifle almost vertical in the strap. "Where are we?" Before he could answer, a huge fireball spread debris and sent them all to the ground. Inside one of the tanks, fire scorched upward, and a soldier with no helmet, his clothes a torrent of flames, clawed his way out. Sarge was already there with several other guys. Sarge hurled his coat onto the wailing man. Somebody grabbed a metal fire extinguisher and pumped it by hand, but it was too late. Bloody, burnt skin down to the bones had destroyed the soldier's arms and legs. A gaping wound in his neck exposed more raw flesh. A loud pop cut through the other gunfire. 15 feet away, smoke from a teary soldier's pistol wafted into the cold air. Sarge and 3 other troops dragged the dead soldier from behind a tree. He shot him!" Sarge grabbed a black phone from another tank and his loud voice boomed through the woods. Somebody got him a new jacket. He set down the phone and then motioned with his hand for everyone to move out. The next gun volley muffled Jackie's hyperventilating. His rifle pushed into his collarbone and the heavy pack straps dug into his neck. Owen again held out his canteen. Jackie pulled the chain attached to the black cap. He lifted the metal opening to his lips. The cold water soothed his parched throat. "Over there!" yelled Sarge. He pointed to a tree cluster stuck in a rounded rock formation within the hills. "That's where they were." Soldiers assumed positions on one knee and quickly fired their bazookas. "Too far, Sarge," said one guy. "Gotta be 600 feet. Sarge had the 3-inch guns moved, and the next series of rounds hit the cluster. Jackie breathed more regularly. Another soldier, a cigarette stuffed in the corner of his mouth, moved with the tank column. "What, did you skip Fort Hood tracks?" "My rifle, it's heavy." "How'd you ever get into the tank killers? You can't even carry an M1. Jackie thought back a few minutes. He and Z-Man had just run out of the meat room door. He swallowed several times, but he said nothing as they continued. The soldier fingered his ribs. "I always thought you were a sissy." "Look, I don't know how I got here." "Yeah, I heard you tell Sarge that. You're trying to go stateside, that's all." Then he laughed. "Maybe you can go pound a few rivets with Rosie." "Hey, Johnson," shouted Sarge, appearing like a behemoth from behind the moving tank. His voice was louder and angrier. "The kid just lost his buddy, so knock it off. You got that?" "Yeah, I got it, Sarge." Sarge squinted, and Jackie again looked at the hole in his green metal helmet. "You all right, kid?" "Yeah." "Good. Carry on." Jackie sat on lumpy rocks next to 3 soldiers who had just carried a box from something they called sea rations. They actually had moved the stinky beef from a sealed silver metal can and then heated soupy wheat cereal from a colorless paper box. Bacon fried in a grungy black metal pan. The bacon reminded him of home, but he shook his head when they offered him breakfast. Sarge stood by one of the straight tall trees and scooped something out of a small can. He threw the can past the tank and waved Jackie over. "Kid, over here." Sarge looked spiffy since he shaved. He must have been 6 or 7 inches taller than Jackie, and maybe he carried 60 additional pounds. "I know you and Zimmerman were up there, and Zimmerman got it. We had to leave him back there, but you gotta eat." "Why?" "Why?" he asked. "Stop thinking about yourself. Think about them people back home. They're all counting on us. We don't make it, then they don't make it. Them Krauts, even the Japs. You don't think they'd be happy riding through any town USA in their jalopies? You think they'd give a rat's ass about us?" "This is World War II, isn't it?" Sarge laughed, and Jackie saw his big white teeth for the first time. Everything about him was big. "Hey, we're making progress. Just remember where we've been. Remember sneaking behind all them trees in the snow? We froze, kid. I heard reports we lost 20,000 men. Them guys ain't going back to play ball or even get married. I lost my own brother over Italy." Jackie's eyes watered as he turned from Sarge and scanned the tree-lined hill. and we're heading into Germany. I must be dead.
You ain't dead yet, unless you keep wandering. Patton wants us all across the Rhine. You think Hitler gives a damn about the United States? Bullshit. You think he cares about DiMaggio's 56 games or Williams batting over 400? You want to lose all that, kid?
I guess not.
Good. Carry on, soldier.
The tank treads turned again. Sarge picked up his rifle and Jackie gave the thumbs up sign, then barked out orders to the tank commanders like a cowboy rounding up cattle. As the fighting resumed, Jackie drifted to the tank they called Jackson. It was a new tank, officially called the M36 Jackson, with a thicker armor and a 90mm gun in the turret instead of the 76mm. Sarge said he would stick with the Hellcat M18. That got him through Belgium. Later that morning, they knocked out half a camouflage tank with a sloping front. Owen said it was a German Panzer. They immediately shot 2 crowd prisoners, guys about his age in blue uniforms, when they wouldn't divulge any information about bridges over the Rhine. Jackie's complaint about cramps in his left side from carrying that M1 rifle went unanswered. Maybe he should just keep his mouth shut. Somebody threw him a tiny wrapped tan paper box designated Menu Number 2. He had no idea what they had stuffed in the cans, but he ate this time because he was hungry. Night fell with a coldness that kept him shivering as the column advanced. Occasionally a 90mm would clear the hillside positions ahead. The blast shook his ears every time they shot at the German emplacements. Why not let Hitler be? Germany invading the United States made no sense. He wished he was plugged into his iPod. These guys were fighting a war with no cell phones or computers. They had some stupid black phone radio in the tank that Sarge called a SCR 610. He jumped when a bullet pinged off the tank. He only heard the rifle when he was on the ground. Sarge rounded the tank as if he was strolling through the mall on a Saturday night. Jackie leaped up before Sarge saw him. More rising orange cloud plumes briefly lit the hills and silhouetted the trees. He watched Sarge bounding between the tanks and the 3-inch guns along the slope. Jackie confused Hitler and Charlie Chaplin with his black dab mustache. Hitler killed Jews and the Z-Man was Jewish. The image of the Z-Man's streaming blood was like a repeating MPEG clip in his head. As his toes ached in the cold night, his index finger slid around the M1's trigger, and he panned the gun back toward the darkened hills. Sarge's gruff voice dominated the night.
Okay, we're stopping here. Captain says we're stopping here. Let's get some shut-eye for a few hours.
Jackie's breath clouded the air as the Jackson finally squeaked to a stop. He wiped his eyes with his glove.
I need a volunteer,
Sarge said loudly. Jackie pushed his lips together and just wanted to sleep. Nobody else said anything either. Kept looking at the hole in Sarge's helmet.
Reynolds, come on. Stand guard out there. 3 hours is all I want.
My stomach, Sarge, my stomach. I'm sick, he said in an almost inaudible voice a distance away.
Oh, jeez.
Sarge's boots crunched in the dirt as he paced.
What about you, Harris?
Harris's weak voice was lost in the darkness. You made me do that 3 nights ago. Jackie wondered if Sarge would ask him. He thought about what Sarge said about Ted Williams and DiMaggio. Would Hitler take away baseball or occupy his hometown?
You guys, you get your sleep. Maybe I'll just let the Kraut snipers slip down the road.
Sarge's boots, grinding against the gravel, faded as he mumbled. Jackie, eyes fixed and his chin tucked into his helmet strap, cleared his parched throat. He settled his butt in the dirt and slipped his gloves over his numb fingers. Then he held onto his M1 as he leaned against the Jackson's cold metal treads. Did Sarge expect him to go up there and face the Germans in the night? He visualized his new 4-story brick school and imagined his friends walking down the clean corridors. No problems like this. In his mind, he crossed his town village's green, shuffled through the autumn leaves toward the gazebo. The rapper concert last fall upset the older people in town. Would he ever see his parents' long gray contempt of the tree-lined streets? He was so free there. The eastern skies occasionally flashed with explosions that obliterated the pinpoint stars above the woods. How could the Allies take out Germany? Then he thought about Sarge trudging up the road to one-man guard against the Germans. Jackie clutched the Jackson's tread and pulled himself up. He lifted his rifle. How he was transported to 1945 Europe didn't matter. He stepped away from the Jackson and over to the frozen ground. Sarge was positioned against one of the straight trees. He swung his rifle.
Who goes there?
Tracks.
I'll be damned.
Sarge smiled and hung the rifle over his shoulder. The hole in his helmet was visible even in the starlight.
You keep looking at this.
He removed the helmet, revealing a hefty crop of dark hair. His forehead was large and his brows dark.
Put your finger in there where the bullet went.
Jackie half smiled and inserted his finger through a smooth opening, but the inside was jagged. You were lucky.
Yeah, I was lucky.
Don't you even think about it?
Why?
You could have been killed. Jackie held the helmet as if he were gripping a celebrity steering wheel. Sarge shook his head.
Let me tell you something about life. People, they tell you how they're going to plan things out. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, blah, blah, blah. All the college boys, they think they're so smart.
He retrieved the helmet and strapped it to his head.
It ain't like that. Life is chance. Nobody wants to believe it.
So everything just happens?
I didn't say that. Chance, a part of the big guy's plan.
The big guy?
Yeah, chance to us, but part of his plan.
How can it be two things at once, Sarge?
I don't know that. And I don't know about this helmet and every piece of lead that's been shot at my ass since we landed.
Sarge pressed his index finger against Jackie's chest.
Can't do anything about it, kid. Just keep on going. You carry on. Oh, God, have mercy, according to your great will.
The leaves rustled to his right. A shadowy figure in a long coat raised a knife as he rushed Sarge. From his hip, Sarge pulled the trigger twice. A crowd gripped his stomach, staggered, and then collapsed. The knife hit the dirt. His curb-brimmed helmet rolled to the side. Sarge pulled Jackie behind the tree. A nasty bullet barrage sliced the bark and pierced the dirt.
I knew they were out here, he shouted back to the convoy. Hit the hill! Hit the hill!
Jackie gawked at the German, his mouth open and his eyes frozen to the sky. Sarge scooped the knife off the ground and motioned Jackie back. He tossed the knife to Jackie as they ran back to the tanks. Jackie caught the handle.
Souvenir, take it home.
Now the tanks responded with the 75 millimeters and then the Jackson's 90 millimeter. Brighter bursts lit up the wooded hillside. The spent powder drifted along the ridge and into his nose. Somebody informed Sarge that another 3 men were dead. He nodded as if he were a retail clerk taking store inventory. Owen knelt down next to the Jackson and glanced up at him. They're talking about the 9th Armored building a bridge across the river. And I heard talk there's still a bridge standing. Sarge's eyes gained a new seriousness.
Don't make no difference if we don't get across that river. Just like a ball game.
Ball game? Asked Jackie. Sarge is a pitcher, said Owen. Pitched against Tommy Bridges. Jackie smiled, but he did not know Tommy Bridges.
You always get chances to win in a ball game.
He pointed at them both.
Same is true for the Krauts.
More machine gun fire cascaded out of the night. Sarge, hunched over his rifle, climbed onto the tread and spoke to the soldier with the leather helmet. Jackie was still thinking about the German with the knife, but he was sure that Sarge didn't have the time to worry about that soldier. Jackie gnawed on the bacon strip. He liked the smell of bacon and eggs and coffee in the cool air. Above the escarpment, on the far shore, the river was icy gray and a chill in the air suggested the air was more like winter and not spring. Like huge insects in the sky, P-38s buzzed the German planes away from the arched bridge spanning the wide waterway ahead. He figured that bridge was at least 2 football fields long. Owen limped over to Jackie. His uniform was ripped on the leg with a trace of blood on the material. Hey, Tracks! That bridge is still standing. Owen, you're wounded. I said that railroad bridge at Remagen is still standing. I see it. What luck! They say Eisenhower himself can't believe it. You don't question luck. Listen to this. 22 bridges over this river and one is standing. That ain't luck, my friend. All you need is one to cross the Rhine. March 7th, 1945. Remember that date. I will. He sliced the rest of the bacon bits with his incisors. Then he shuffled along the tank convoy. He was nervous about not seeing Sarge all morning. Maybe Sarge was getting new orders about what would happen if they got across that bridge. Sarge will read the dear Lord before we cross that bridge. What's the dear Lord? You know, there's a young man far from home called to serve his nation in a time of war. I don't know that. Sarge was seated in the passenger side of a Jeep speeding away from the bridge. He spotted Jackie as the driver spun up the hill and skidded in the dirt. Then he exited the Jeep before it stopped.
They've been firing their 88s all night. The whole damn city here is burning.
More P-38s swept across the skies above the river. Smoke rose from behind the hill. He glanced at the hole in Sarge's helmet. Sarge's jacket was unbuttoned. We crossing that bridge, Sarge?
We're walking across the bridge, kid. Them are the orders. You ain't going.
What? Jackie squinted, but his eyes were watery. Sarge, I have to go with you guys. He just shook his head and pressed his lips. The dear Lord, what is it, Sarge? Sarge rolled his tongue against his cheek. Then he unbuttoned his flap pocket and reached inside his army jacket. He pulled out a folded sheet of wrinkled paper.
Do you pray, kid?
Jackie shook his head.
Well, start.
A lieutenant called Sarge from the Jeep. Sarge stared at the stained paper. He tucked it in his jacket and jogged back to the Jeep. The engine revved and dirt spit off the tire treads. Jackie wanted to go into Germany with the rest of his unit. Where was Sarge? He was sure he could talk Sarge and letting him go into Germany. A mass of arched metal and girders crisscrossed the gray sky beyond the vertical wire supports. He merged with a column of United States troops, but tripped twice on the rails as he looked for Sarge. On either side of the shore, and soldiers atop the eroded cliff watched the penetration into Germany. Below the brick turret, Sarge, his rifle strapped over his shoulder, rushed across the bridge rails and disappeared into the left tower. He passed just inside one of the arched windows. Sarge! Jackie darted between the troops. Sarge! Somebody shouted from behind. They wanted the men to proceed slowly over the bridge. Jackie jettisoned his pack and rifle. He raced around the bricks and into the tower. Once inside, his voice echoed as if he were in a concert hall. Sarge! Sarge! Through the openings, the river moved ever steadily, but when he turned, the door was closed. Tears moved down his cheeks as he choked on his words. Where are you, Sarge? He twisted the door handle and then kicked the wood. Then he retreated to the open window. Planes returned above the river as the door slowly opened. Ave Maria, he whispered. Jackie's teary eyes were wide as he wandered into the hallway. The door closed behind him. He stood in a church choir loft 5 rows back from 3 silver-haired women in sundresses. He was in shorts and his t-shirt again as the summer heat roasted the church. To his left were 2 powder blue stained glass windows, cut with thick diagonal pieces, and a brighter pink identical window in the center. Smooth glass lights hung down from the supports along both walls. Numerous stained glass windows with the names of the saints lined the smooth plaster within the outside walls. The white cloth shrouded altar and surrounding gold rug were set within an alcove up front. A larger wood altar formed the rounded rear wall with 3 sets of stained glass windows. Above, the gold letters in the upper wood border were simple words. O God, have mercy according to your great mercy. A flag-draped coffin was positioned center in the front of the altar. A gray-haired man unfolded a piece of paper and spoke into the microphone. We know how many times Mario said this prayer during the Second World War while in combat, and as a civilian here in this very church. Dear Lord, there is a man far from home, called to serve his nation in time of war, sent to defend our freedom on some distant foreign shore. We pray you keep him safe. We pray you keep him strong. We pray you send him safely home, for he's been gone away so long. There is a young woman far from home, serving her nation with pride. Her step is strong, her step is sure, there is courage in every stride. We pray you keep her safe. We pray you keep her strong. We pray you send her safely home, for she's been away too long. Bless those who await their safe return. Bless those who mourn the loss. Bless those who serve this country well, no matter what the cost. To all he met, he was an inspiration. To his family, he was simply Uncle Mario. But to his men, he was just plain Sarge. And now let us hear Be Not Afraid, as we lay Mario Manelli to his final rest. The piano and flute produced a poignant recessional as the men in dark suits and honorary pallbearers followed the coffin down the main aisle. Two uniformed police officers stepped into the oak-framed doorway across from the loft. They drew handguns as he backed toward the hallway. To his right, he heard a raspy voice.
Hey, why you out here?
In the corridor, with his rifle strapped to his green army-issued coat, Sarge gave him the thumbs up.
Thought I told you to stay put.
Sarge. The music stopped. Sarge's bare paws yanked him into the corridor. He regained his footing as Sarge steered him through the opening to the bridge tower. The river wound through the late winter countryside, and the thundering troops crossed the Ludendorff Bridge. Sarge had just saved his life back in the loft, but Jackie didn't mention it. Sarge half nodded and watched the men marching into Germany.
What do you say, kid?
Got a job to do, don't we, Sarge? He slapped his shoulder as they crossed the rails and started onto the bridge. Sarge stopped before they merged with the other troops.
Let's move out. Carry on.